Day in the house. How we doing?
Fantastic. How you doing?
Good. Good to see you. You're going to be very excited about our next subject. I know you're fired up about this, but you just stay tuned for that. But first, we need to talk about Jerry with my man Stephen A. here. Stephen A., is Jerry right?
It depends on how you look at it. To me, it's embarrassing that he would say Tony Romo took him off the hook. You're the owner. You're the man that cuts the check. Not to mention the GM, the wannabe coach, the wannabe the president and everything else in between. You're that dude. What the hell you mean he took you off the hook? Or took Jason Garrett off the hook, or took Stephen Jones off the hook, for that matter? You mean that Dak Prescott going out there, balling out, en route to an 11-game winning streak with a QBR that was top 2 in the NFL, clearly in line for Rookie of the Year and mentioned in league MVP conversations? You mean that Tony Romo going up there acting like he was writing a retirement speech, for crying out loud, holding back tears? And by the way, I don't understand why it was a damn speech. Why did you have to read something? Look, I'm on the sidelines. I was hurt. He came in here the way he's balling. There's really nothing to talk about. I'd love to play, but look, this is what he's doing. That would be that. But all the drama that comes with it, his epitaph that he was writing made no damn sense for me. It was very, very melodramatic. And in the case of Jerry Jones getting back to him, I think it's utterly embarrassing that he would go on the air and say what he just said in terms of being let off the hook. Why the hell would you need to be let off the hook? Dak Prescott is flat out balling. You're winning games. You're a Super Bowl favorite for the first time in 2 decades. What do you mean being left off the hook? Maybe he's right. I don't know. But I think it was absolutely ridiculous for him to come out of his mouth and acknowledge such a thing, because it should not have required being let off the hook. You're in the production business. Dak Prescott is producing. That should have been that.
What hook? I agree. What hook? What hook is he on? What were they, like 8-1 at the time? Well, that's quite a hook to be on. Look, Jerry Jones has a quality about him that produces loyalty in others. You know, it elicits, that's how they respond, because he's obviously a loyal guy and feels the loyalty to Tony Romo. And so there are lots of good things you can say about Jerry Jones as an owner and the way he relates to his players. However, Jerry Jones also may have a narcissistic personality disorder. It always has to be all about him in every way. And in that sense, when the Cowboys succeed, they've succeeded either at times in spite of him, or because he's relinquished some control to Stephen Jones, who's made a lot of good decisions on personnel. Right? Like, they didn't draft Johnny Manziel. They went after the offensive lineman and all that. And I think Romo, if it's true, as Stephen A., you say, that he sees Romo as like his adopted son, then the reason he feels like on the hook is because he sees Romo as like an extension of himself. You know, it has to be about him. And so by Romo having the press conference, which I imagine Jerry Jones or someone probably picked up the phone and said, Tony, we need you to do this. And Tony, I'm sure, would reciprocate that loyalty because of how loyal Jerry Jones has been. He feels off the hook. He feels like his own ego is let off the hook when there was no hook in the first place. You were winning.
Well, I think one thing you have to look at from a Tony Romo situation was the Cowboys, their fan base, the way Jerry had talked about what they said before Dak ever went. When Tony gets back, this is his team. And when you say things like that, that is your full intention, right? Most people say, hey, you don't lose a job because of injury, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that's not true, right? Guys get hurt, next guy comes in and plays well, it's his job. I mean, that's just the way the football world goes. But when you're talking about a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, the relationship that you just referenced between Jerry, Jason Garrett, Stephen Jones, and Tony Romo, all of those guys, how they built this thing together, the way they were working towards, I'm sure he felt some tension of what he was going to do. I do think what Tony Romo did was good for their football team and their fan base by just walking in and assuring everybody what we all know, right? Because we don't have any vested interest. We're not Cowboy fans, haters, either way. We're just going to look at the field and say, hey, this is what should happen. But for people who live and die about Cowboys and, they're wearing the 9 jersey, the whole deal, when Romo goes up and says, listen, Dak Prescott has earned the right to do this, There is no question because he knows it.
But wait a minute, Jeff.
Fans know it. Everybody knows
Wait
it.
a minute, Jeff.
And it's not going to be a distraction.
Yep.
That's the main issue.
Jeff,
it's
I
not
have a question.
should Romo be playing. It's can everybody else, every time Dak struggles a little bit, can everybody get off the Romo train, understand you have to let this quarterback continue to grow and develop because he is a rookie. He's not playing like
Jeff,
a rookie, but he is a
question.
rookie. Yeah, what's up?
I have a question, Jeff Saturday.
Yes, sir.
Why the damn speech? Why the speech? A written speech.
I'm with
what
you on
was that about?
But I think Max made a good point. I'm sure Jerry or Steve, someone called and said, hey, listen, we would appreciate, you doing this. And I'm sure this was not Romo's idea. Hey, I'm going to come up and say, but what he did was heartfelt. I don't want to discredit this because I respect the way he said it. It's hard. I don't care what anybody says. Listen, you've been in this thing for a long time. You put everything you're in. You still believe you're a baller. To go up there and say, hey, this guy is better than me, that's a hard thing to say. And it's reality, but it is still hard. Take nothing away from that. But I don't think this was schemed from Tony Romo. I think he did the right thing.
Steven's question, though, I think that the point is it only became that level issue, right? And I always go back to Kurt Warner, who won his job because of injury, became probably the best player in football, at least the most celebrated MVP Super Bowl winner, and then lost his job to injury to a good but not great quarterback, Mark Bulger. Kurt Warner was probably still better than Mark Bulger, but they were 8-0, so he never got his job back, right? And that didn't become the issue that this became because the owner. Well, but it's not just Dallas. It's because, to Steven's point, the owner kept pumping up Romo. You feel like if you took Jerry Jones out of it, it wouldn't have been the same kind of controversy.
I agree with that, but to your point earlier, Jerry can't help himself. I mean, from the narcissistic point of view, he wants to be in the news. He wants to keep the Cowboys in the news, right? I mean, he understands business. This guy knows what he's doing. He wants to keep it on the forefront of everybody's mind. So if he can cause issue without being a distraction for his team, it's a win-win.
And Romo's doing what he's asked, and I feel like he wrote it out so he could articulate himself the way he wanted to in case he got emotional, which he did a little bit.
Unbelievable. Y'all are all unbelievable. I mean, why don't y'all just put on the cowboy pom-poms? You got apologies everywhere. Oh, this is what they were thinking. And that's what they were thinking. Is everything's fine. All his explanation. Come on. I mean, damn. Jeff sounded like he wanted to write Tony Romo's apology for him. I mean, damn.
Jeff just gave me a nice segue. Can we keep it here, please? We have an NFC East showdown tomorrow night in the city of